listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. Like we always do every single time we have a new episode is because we have a special guest, and today we have an amazing opportunity talking to our special guest today, Nichole Lee. She has an amazing website, nicholelee.love. If you're ready to experience freedom, fulfillment, and joy, this is the episode you want to really tune into. And it doesn't just say that on her website, but, you know, it's all about how we tell our story. So first and foremost, let's learn a little bit more about Nichole. She is not a stranger of not just doing her own thing, being her own boss, but she has a ton of experience in coaching, transformational life coaching, to be specific. We're going to learn everything about what she specializes in and how she guides individuals who are experiencing life transitions, feeling stuck or unfulfilled or overwhelmed, to rediscovering what they are supposed to be doing, not just personally, but professionally in their life. Today's topic, we're going to be, just like I said earlier, rediscovering. That is what we're going to focus on. So first and foremost, Nichole, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm having a fabulous day. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. I appreciate your time. Like I always tell my guests, because time is very valuable. It's the most valuable thing that we all possess. And for you to share with our audience is a true honor. So kind of tell us a little bit about yourself. I didn't give you a big introduction, but just a little snapshot. You have over 2 decades in business management, consulting, leader, and executive coach for Fortune 500 companies. And you have a lot of experience in psychology and holistic wellness. And I'm sure there's a lot more on your resume. So do the honors. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Sure. Yeah, so I am serving as a trauma-informed healer, intuitive guide, and transformational life coach. And as you mentioned, I help individuals who are experiencing significant life transitions. And so we're naturally going through transitions in life all the time, but significant is really around areas of, for example, making a major career shift in your life. In my case, right, losing my mom, and we'll talk about that, was a major life transition shift for me that actually brought me into the work that I do. When we think about relationships, whether we're getting in a relationship or exiting one, having children, becoming an empty nester, other areas of even excelling in your career, taking it to the next level, making a major life transition, and success can also be that. So those are just some examples. But I help individuals who are truly feeling stuck in that space, right? So transitions should have some level of movement, but sometimes it can be overwhelming. It can be very challenging, as well as recognizing that it could be unfulfilling, the transition that you're going through. And so I help people rediscover who they are. When we go through life, we sometimes forget the core of who we are because we get so laser focused on what we're doing and not who we're being. So I help individuals get back to the essence of who they are in their being. Now, when we go through transitions, many times there's also pains from the past that we haven't healed from that begin to surface. Sometimes that's in the what if, who am I? What am I doing here? What's my purpose? I help my clients actually work through healing those past pains so that you can transition in a way that you can chart a new path for your life that is filled with freedom, fulfillment, and joy. So that's how I serve and what I do. And you mentioned that prior to this work, I spent 2 decades, almost 20 years, or 20 plus years rather, in business management consulting as a leader in helping with major transformations, but also helping executives through those transformations. And then the other thing that you mentioned, I have a lot of background in different certifications and modalities. And with the work that I do, I actually help people from a holistic perspective. So that is mind, body, emotions, and spiritual aspects. So I'm certified in several modalities across life coaching, energy healing, and some other modalities like meditation and mindfulness to support my clients.
And we live in a world where, everyone should know what a podcast is by now. It's been like podcast fever.
Yeah. Yes, it really has been.
I remember when I first started in 2016, and it was humble beginnings at a barbershop. And then you speed up to now, get to interview all these, very interesting people like yourself from different backgrounds. But the principle's been the same. But one thing that has changed throughout now, from the beginning to now, is the growth. The growth of the show, the growth of me being a great host, the growth of me allowing the guests to shine. I can only not expect, but believe that with your journey with your clients, that you are seeing the growth measure up by the time you wrap up, your sessions with them and they start implementing what you teach them.
Yes, and I love that you said that around a few things that came to me was just the evolution, right? We're ever evolving. And the more that we spend time in appreciating that evolution, I feel that there can be a greater acceleration of growth. And so I have the greatest gift of being an observer, a guide, and someone who is celebrating someone on their evolution and their journey. And much of the work that I do is really focused on co-creation. So I can just imagine with all the podcasts you've done and the things and the people you connect with, the most beautiful experiences is when we're co-creating them, right? When we're in an ebb and flow of our conversations, of our ideas, our thoughts, and visions for our lives. And so that's one thing that I really do focus on is being a facilitator of that and making sure that really my clients are really the owners of their life. I just happen to have maybe a different perspective of view or a few tools that they can add to their toolkit to support them on their personal life journey.
We're talking to our guest, Nichole Lee. Go to her website. It's super easy, NicholeLee.love. We're talking about rediscovering who you are. That's a great segue to getting that unpacked for the show today. Explain from the audience, what does it actually mean for someone to actually rediscover who they are?
When we go through life, right, many times we may not even have the luxury to really stay connected to the core of who we are as children and as we grow. And so one of the things that I've come to realize when helping someone with their rediscovery is actually starting with their childhood. When you start asking about what you loved as a child, what brought you joy, what were the relationships and connections like? What were the things that seemed impossible, but you believed in that time? That is what rediscovery is. Because really at the core, it's there. It just may have been suppressed from your current state. So that's one way to start rediscovering who you are, is starting to ask those questions, particularly around your childhood. Another way to start rediscovering who you are and becoming curious is actually asking those questions from those that you love and you trust. Many times we don't see ourselves the way other people see us. And so when you go through that type of exchange, you start to uncover or rediscover gifts and talents and skills that you may not have really had at the forefront. So that's another way to start to rediscover yourself. But really what it truly is, as I mentioned from the beginning, is really allowing those things to resurface. I have a belief in my spiritual belief that there's many things that are already inside of us that are truly innate, that we may not have been given ourselves the time and capacity to really engage with. And when you start to do that in the state of even stillness, those things start to surface.
Like I said earlier, you also have a show yourself, Transcending Identity. It's all about, you doing interviews. I got a chance to listen to the interview with the one with Thomas Williams.
Oh, and nice. Yes.
I remember the part of the interview he talked about, greatness is already there. Like he works with these athletes and talks to different colleges and stuff. We also have to rediscover the greatness that is untapped.
Yes, for sure. For sure. And to your point with with Thomas and what he was saying is, he really speaks on the fact that you don't have to seek it externally, right? That it is inside of you. And what you just mentioned is that untapped. And many times, again, that can be tied to things of being suppressed, right? Or not encouraged or given the opportunity to delve into some of those other things for whatever circumstances. And so that's also why I really started focusing also on trauma-informed therapies and support, because many times we're not necessarily tapping into those because something happened to us that shut that off, that made that scary, that made that uncomfortable. Perhaps we were not encouraged for that. In some cases, individuals may have received reprimands, right, for trying to go into those elements of their greatness, or the environment did not support or nurture that. And so that's why that's also important to have safe spaces where you feel comfortable going through that discovery process to tap into that untapped potential and greatness that's inside of all of us.
Everyone has a moment when things change.
Yes.
There's a pivot that happens. And for you, what was a moment that you went through adversity and that became your opportunity to start the transformation for maybe a personal page in the book or a professional page in the book of your life?
Yeah, so thank you for asking that question. My mother was diagnosed with cancer in 2018 and passed in the same year. And going through that level, my mother and I were very close, and going through that level of grief was very traumatic. I was also her caretaker, and that's actually what started me in becoming more obsessed with holistic health and wellness, wanting to find different alternative methods to support her and hopefully save her. Now, she did pass away, and it awakened things in me that I was never the same. I started asking those questions. Who am I? What am I doing here on earth? Have I been wasting my life away? I also ask myself things like, am I really happy? Am I really fulfilled? What does success really look like to me? And I came to the conclusion that I wasn't really happy and fulfilled, that I was living by other people's standards, and that there was a greater call on my life. And so I went through my own transformative journey of self-discovery, of healing, and reconnecting to my greatness, right? My true calling and essence inside of me, which led me to leave my 20-year career behind. And I didn't have a full plan when I did that. The greatest plan I had was my faith in God, that there was something greater for me and that I would make it through. And so that's why I'm here today in the way that I am, helping other people gather that faith, right? To really align to their purpose and live in their truth and have that fulfillment and joy. I'm grateful. Though I was very sad to lose my mother, I am very grateful. I often say that my mother's death was my rebirth. It really woke me up. And now I'm living in my truth and my authentic self every single day.
I hope you take this in a good way, because one of my favorite movies of all time was Lion King.
Okay.
I'm going to tie it together. So I remember when, Simba, there was a point where he was lost. And he had to rediscover himself. And there's like a scene in the movie sequence where the father that, is no longer there, he's saying, remember who you are.
Yes.
And I know when you're little, you ain't thinking deep and all that when you're watching a movie like that. But I can't help but think when I got older, and just hearing you talk, it kind of sparked me thinking about that movie. Sometimes we have that person in our life that encourages us to remember who we are. Because throughout life happens and we can lose our identity because of our experiences.
Yes. And that is so powerful. And I love that movie. And to your point, maybe as a child, not really being able to fully appreciate that I will say, though, with those types of statements, they actually do become embedded in us if we continue to remember those pieces. And, you know, who we are is so important, yet the outside world may focus so much on what we do. And that is where I sense and feel a lot of the identity challenges that you were talking about with life, right? And identity crisis happens because we lose sight of who we are in pursuing the external validation, the external accolades, the societal expectations that are sometimes placed upon us. And that's why it is so important to take those opportunities to go back to that level of remembrance and having people who can support you, a community, right, that can support you in that rediscovery process. Because at the end of the day, we all desire to be seen, heard, loved, and appreciated, right? And so I would just say, giving yourself permission to do that can be the greatest gift that you can give to yourself that allows it to have a domino effect on the impact of others.
We're talking to our guest, Nichole Lee. Go visit her website, nicholelee.love. We're talking about rediscovering yourself, rediscovering who you are. And your mission today is clear. You're assisting people like you who are navigating through major life changes. And sometimes change in life, it will happen without you even having a warning. It will just happen. And for you to be able to make your transition to not just better yourself, but now you're bettering others and you're certified. You're not just like saying happy thoughts and making people, feel better. You're giving them actionable steps. What is it like being able to see people see the light, if you will, like see the light cut on and say, you know what, it's not going to be as dark as I thought it would be?
I wake up every day so grateful that is what I get to do every single day. I don't even think there's words to describe the feeling that I have to see people light up, right? To reignite a flame that may have been flickering and it become a bonfire in their lives. It's amazing. And I wish it for each and every person because we come into this world so full of light. And like you mentioned, depending on circumstances and situations, that light feels so dim. And the things that we're even going through now in the world, there are so many people who are suffering and silently suffering. And so to have the opportunity to say, I see you, that you can, you're worthy, is such a beautiful, beautiful gift that I get to do every single day of my life.
I had someone who came on the show recently and they discussed how, today's world seems so negative, and it's so important for, people with influence to, spread light and positivity. And I think it's true. And the other thing to keep in mind is that we have to be real with ourselves that not every day is going to be sunshine and rainbows. We're going to have our dark clouds, our dark moments. And we can have two choices. We can anchor ourselves in fear or we can anchor ourselves in faith. For you, how did you keep yourself just motivated to keep your head above water when you were going through those rough times?
Yeah, it was to allow myself to feel the feelings, allow myself to have those ebbs and flows. And I would say for me to embrace that fear is part of the process. That fear is actually my friend. And I attribute it to a good friend that knows so much about you, right? Knows your past, knows all the things that you've done, the experiences you have, and deep desire to keep you safe. But just like with a friend, with conversation, I can remind that fear where I am, where I'm going, what I've overcome. And that then leads to the faith to take the leap in the unknown places. So that embracing fear, along with my faith is what really did keep me moving forward. and being able to sit in it. I think a lot of times, what we see and what we consume, if you're not careful, is so much of the negative. It is instilling a deeper sense of fear without context, explanation, and opportunity to reflect on what it means in your own life. And with that just dysregulates your entire thought process. That makes it much more difficult for you to progress and move forward. So that's basically how I went through that process for myself. And then I would add this too. I became much more intentional around the people that I was around and what I was consuming on a regular basis. And what I mean by that is I had to check in with myself about what I felt I needed to stay in a more positive state. And if there were individuals who didn't have the capacity or capability to support me in that, they played a different role in my life. And then the other part with the consuming, I became much more intentional about what I was watching, what I was listening to, the conversations I was having, because I do understand and know, and just to share with individuals who are listening, that information does go into your brain and your subconscious mind like a program. And those negative thoughts and things will start to run and run over you if you are not careful about what you're engaging in and what you're exposing yourself to.
Everyone's journey is different. Everyone's story is different. Everyone's past is different. But everyone has a moment now. Mm-hmm. Everyone has 24 hours in the moment. And now is the most important time you can ever have in your life. I said on a show last week that the future, we don't know if it'll ever come. All we have is now. When you grab hold to your vision while you're on this new path of rediscovering yourself, for you personally, what was it like to see your own self blossom into the vision that you now hold today?
So many things are so difficult for me to put into words. I do want to acknowledge and appreciate what you said about the now and the present moment, because that is what we really have. And it's not cliche when we say it's the gift, right? Because it is the present. I would say that me seeing things materialize into this reality is again an acknowledgement of that faith, right? And recognizing that the more that I am intentional about what I desire in the world, the less it feels uncomfortable that I don't know how it's going to happen. I think society has conditioned us to believe that we have to know how things happen before we can have a level of comfort. And as I released that, I saw more of the things, all my visions materialize, because I disconnected from the expectation of how it might happen in my mind and allowing it to manifest the way it should be.
Man, we can talk for another 4 hours, man. Like, man, can't believe it's already 23 minutes. But rediscovering is finding clarity. Mm-hmm. And when we're honest with ourselves, when people who are good people in our lives, and they speak feedback for us, I think part of the rediscovering process is you don't get so offended so easily. You kind of develop tough skin, and you can weed out the ones who are the same things and the ones who are actually trying to speak life into you, and they're being real, versus the ones who just want to get the itchy ears and say all the things that you like. How important is it for people to surround themselves with people that can lead them out of the old way of how they used to live?
Yeah, that there's a few things you said there with the clarity. So as you go through this journey for yourself and you get that clarity, and particularly working with those that you do trust and do sense and believe that they see you for who you are and they can help support you, that clarity becomes starts to shift in what I consider then the confidence, right, to stand in that. And that confidence in yourself and that inner knowing gives you a greater sense of discernment of individuals who are there for you to support you and those who may just be hanging out, right? Like, and they may not have good intentions. I think it's important, though, to go through that exercise with yourself to get re-engaged with yourself to know the difference. So again, right, that discover what we're talking about, some of that is literally sitting with yourself and starting to ask those questions. How do I know if someone is listening to me? How do I know if someone sees me for who I am? What are the indications for me that says this person is safe, that this person is intentional? Because many times we haven't taken that time to check in to know the difference, right? I've worked with several clients that are like, I just want a happy life. Well, what does a happy life look like for you? I want great friends. What does a great friend look like to you? Right? What are the attributes? How will you know? So I will say doing that homework to get clear on what it means to you will build that discernment and that ability to also be able to decipher, right, where someone is sitting, and then building that courage to set the boundaries or even release individuals from your life based on where you're going.
Man, people have to hang this one up and get on the next show when you come back because, man, we ran out of time just like that. But we've been talking to our guest, Nichole Lee. Go visit her website. Is very simple, NicholeLee.love. She also has a podcast herself, Transcending Identity. And if someone wants to check out your website, you have sessions that they can look over and opportunity to connect with you for a business opportunity. What's the best way that they can make sure they're a good fit for you?
Yeah. So on my website, there is an opportunity to request a call to speak with me. And that call is complimentary just for us to talk about what you're going through, what support you may need, and if I'm a good fit. I'm also on Instagram. I am Nichole Lee. That's IamNicholeLee, as well as LinkedIn. I am Nichole Lee. So any of those platforms, I'd be happy to connect with you, answer any questions, and meet with you and talk about your life journey and where I may be able to support.
We've been talking about the topic, rediscovering who you are, with our guest today, Nichole Lee. Go to her website. It's NicholeLee.love. Once again, I want to say thanks for your time.
Thank you so much for having me, Shamai.